mainly nut mass-producing trees, as well as fruit, soft mass-producing trees. It's on chestnut. It's our #1 seller. Not because we like to sell it, it's because the deer love it. Anything we can do with trees and shrubs to improve the property.
You're training those deer to know, like, at this time of the year, I'm going to go move to this property because I know that there's going to be food there. There's been food there the last 4 years.
I have to call it out, Frank. I mean, this 40-acre piece of property has 12 elevated box blinds.
You know, a late drop pear versus your Honeycrisp apple is going to win every time.
I was humming it because, like, I've sold some things before in my day, but I don't think that one's going to fly.
We have over 13 different white oaks for every application, from wetter ground, poor soils, old strip mines, stuff like that.
Does a chestnut ever stop producing?
Unless it gets the blight, which all of ours that we sell are blight resistant. We stand by that.
I should have planted those 10 years ago, because then they'd be there and they'd just be rocking and rolling. And
a ready-to-go product that you can just put in the ground with the guarantee behind it. All you have to do is click on our website and place an order, and you're going to get that.
I have so many questions for you. I'm really excited for this.
Bring them on.
Podcast number 2 of the day that we're doing here. Again, we're pre-recording. Last week's episode was pre-recorded, and this one week as well. At this point in my life, I have a full-blown newborn human that I'm taking care of. So,
yeah, we're praying that goes well. And
yes,
you're doing good with all that.
Yes, we are.
So,
praying hard.
Yeah. Well, that'll be exciting.
Yeah, but when this rolls out, deer season's it's not done in certain counties in Michigan.
It's winding.
It's winding down. If you are still grinding, kudos to you. This can be still really good if you set yourself up right.
Yeah, if you have the food, it's king. And that's what a lot of what we're talking about today, I'm excited about, is like learning more about tree species and how specific they get into growing certain trees to drop soft mass throughout the season. And so we can start to achieve that goal of having food on our property from September 1 to January 1, not just in food plots. So in addition to your food plots, I would never prescribe eliminating your food plots, but in addition to your food plots, having additional tree support of that,
because you
taking it to the next level.
You look at right now, my food plots, they're producing like a little bit of food maybe, but mostly not. Like, they're wiped out, deer have cleaned them up, and I have zero drawing power to either properties that I get to hunt. There's no drawing power to them right now when it comes to my food plots. So, like, if you can again double your food plots with trees, and keep drawing deer to your property, I think there's a lot of value to that. I'm excited to learn that, because when you think of trees, when I think of trees and planting trees, it's kind of like, what do I plant? Where do I plant it? How do I plant it? It can be a little intimidating for guys that haven't done a lot of tree plantings in their past. So we're gonna bring in an expert today from Morse Nursery, who's gonna be able to really shed light on a lot of that for us. I know that I think right now on my dad's farm, and I'm in a good spot to really start planting trees, because Logger went through it last year. I don't think we're going to get him back this year like he said he was going to. So I think logging has at a standstill there for quite a while. So now there's some areas that I can really look at getting some trees, the type of trees that I want, because now got all the junk trees out, which I wouldn't say they're junk, but they're a lot of soft maple. Nothing producing food for deer when they're 40 foot tall and every single branch is up there too. So not really producing food unless I cut it down. So now looking at trees that are continuously going to be providing not only cover, maybe some thermal cover, but also food. Yeah.
It's going to be a fun one. Frank's super knowledgeable on what he's doing, and his ability to drive and draw people directly to specific trees for their purpose. It's using the right tool in the toolbox at the right time, and then also hang to the end of it, because there is a promo code that you can get that is launched at the end of the episode. So for sure. And Morse Nursery is awesome guys, awesome people. He will help you, walk you through that whole process. So stick tuned. It's going to be super fun, and it's a lot of information.
Quick, before we bring him in,
Yeah.
do you think you'll still be hunting when this launches? When we're January timeframe, my guess is, do you think you're hunting still?
Yeah, I don't know, but I would like to say,
I don't know. I'm tagged out, maybe.
Well, I've in Michigan, I've tossed it up. Like, I mean,
Have you gotten a deer on camera? Like,
nothing that I'm wanting to chase. You know, the lack of food on that new piece is just driving me absolutely bonkers. So that's really hard for me right now. I'm hopeful that we can do Kentucky has another youth season. So hopeful to get down there with my boys and see what's going on down there. And Illinois drags out into January. So,
do you know when? How long?
to the 16th.
Is bow?
Yeah, they have a late CWD season though too.
Oh,
So that's any firearm CWD season. So those are hard to keep up with all of that nuances. But yeah, so their muzzleloader season opens soon, but it's hard to say soon because we're in the future now.
yeah. Are you shooting some doe here?
We did.
You did. Well, yeah.
Sam
did.
Sam Wise
did. We'll get into a conversation about that. Of like literally his first hunt, his first deer.
Yeah, first deer
That's
encounter.
exciting.
Yeah, it was super fun. We had a great time in the blind, but we will
Did he get nervous?
not really
He was
what
pretty calm and collected.
Yeah, not what I really anticipated. And like I told you, unfortunately, both SD cards in the cameras were full. So yeah, he rolled his eyes at me. I was like, oh, Lee's good. I got told Sam, I was like, oh, Lee's gonna be pissed. And it was such beautiful footage too, because it was like snow covered. We had a nice 9-point come in. He was dancing around on the river, like trying to cross it, and like, yeah,
Would have been great.
it would have been really cool. And no, Sam was just like, he was very mindful, like he is, of the whole situation where like deer come out at 150 yards and it's like, I don't think I really want to take this long of a shot. And I was like, I think that's a wise choice, you know, like, and it was 3:30 and I was like, we have a lot of time, so let's just wait and see what happens. That deer ended up moving in a little closer and we took a shot at it.
How many deer did you see?
Did we see 20?
Ooh. So are you going back there?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're you know.
That's a pretty impressive that you're still, because this is as of now, like we're having a true winter for first time in a long time. So I'm really impressed that they're still holding tight to that property like that.
Well, there's a reason. One of the neighbors has something going on over there that they're enjoying.
But they're still using your property. Like they're still utilizing your property, right? Or did they?
They're using property features to get them to what the neighbor has going on.
Sure.
So
Maybe he listened to the Buck Bourbon episode.
I'm gonna go with he listened to the Buck Bourbon episode.
Yeah.
So like that's really why we saw those deer and the deer numbers that we did, because the other areas of the property don't really have their ghost towns. So
note to self: if you own a swamp, get it done early.
have food, have it in the right place. Actually plan a good food plot. Make sure you do it right and get it there. Get it established. I think,
or have the right trees,
which we're going to talk about more of.
All right,
let's go.
Let's talk trees.
Yep,
trees and shrubs.
When do you get a call of bush?
When I think of bush, okay. Well,
I don't know. Like why we gotta always get everybody gets professional when they talk about shrubs, and it's
like when I think of a bush, I think of it as just like an annoying bush around the house that I need in the landscape, and I need to cut
but
back.
But a shrub is something that you want.
It's pretty. It serves a purpose. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Let's go. It was like the spring, so yeah, but it's getting there. Lee likes to clap.
Bad clap. There we go.
That's the action clap.
That's
the action clap. I'm gonna give him an action thing. Just 'cause-
Dude,
You need to.
When I was in production,
Get some antlers that collapse.
Oh,
genius.
I bet a
dude.
taxidermy could do that for sure.
Wow, I do like that.
I know.
I don't like
Frank,
Florida.
you just like, I'm gonna get him for Christmas. I got to work on that.
So you're explain to me like Morse Nursery and like your role in it. Is that like you and Tim are running Morse now or what?
Yeah, so I've ever since the original owner Charlie started Morse about 20-ish years ago and planted all the original trees in Michigan. I took over about 6 years ago as like the main habitat consulting, kind of how to lay out properties. I'm the main hunter of the group of people who work at Morse. Tim does a lot of our marketing and is focused more on the commercial side of stuff, like commercial chestnuts, building orchards, stuff like that. And where my focus is whitetail, turkey, upland bird, anything we can do with trees and shrubs to improve the property. And I guess what makes Morse different is like I mentioned, we have all the parent trees. So this isn't me just saying, hey, this tree's going to drop at this time. You should put it here. We have that representation in Michigan, and I can tell you exactly when each tree is going to drop, how long they're going to drop, and then, where to place those to improve. Is it thicket bedding? Is it a kill plot, a food plot? Are we just building and extending woodline edge? There's a lot of options to do it with the trees and the shrubs. But that's my main focus is trees and shrubs.
All right. So Morse Nursery as a whole, I guess let's really start off with like, what does Morse Nursery really provide as far as like variety, species, and all that?
So we provide again the trees and mainly nut mass producing trees as well as fruit soft mass producing trees. We have a slight focus on chestnut. It's our number one seller, not because we like to sell it, it's because the deer love it. Chestnut, persimmon, different apples that are disease resistant, pears, and again, the different types of shrubs that are a great summer food source, but turn into great thicket bedding as well. The other thing we're really known for is I don't think anyone has an extensive list as we do with white oaks. We have over 13 different white oaks for every application, from wetter ground, poor soils, old strip mines, stuff like that as well.
And do all those species, how do you sell those? All pots, bare root, all that stuff, or everything in between?
So it just depends. We actually grow all of our own stock. So we're not going out and buying potted trees from somebody.
Yeah.
So what we do every year is we undercut those beds and we'll sell bare root through the spring. Anything we don't sell, we go ahead and then pot up in one of our root trapper containers or air prune containers that can be shipped out in the fall. But to be honest, after doing this for a long time at this point, a potted versus a bare root tree, we get the same success as long as we put it in our tree survival kit, the tube, weed mat, fertilizer pack. So I know people get hung up on that. It's like, hey, bare root's the only way to go, or potted's the only way to go. Really? If we can avoid a late spring frost in your area and I can send you a leafed out tree, we see the most success.
So, and what's the largest size tree that you guys sell?
So we're typically on the smaller end because we are the grower as well. So once those 3-year-olds, which are usually 6 foot plus, get sold out, they're usually gone until we grow more. But I always push people towards our 1 and 2-year-olds, anywhere from 1 to 2 foot, 2 to 4 foot. But production starts on our chestnut and fruit trees in 3 to 5 years of age.
Okay.
So you could be getting a pound of nuts by year 4, year 5.
Okay.
And then it'll double every year after that until full maturity.
Okay.
Oh.
One of the areas that I've probably lack in the most is nut and tree production and use, and just really taking advantage of that, soft mass and hard mass stuff, just because it's just been one of the things that I've dabbled in it. I've gotten into it. I've seen the success with it and all that kind of stuff, but it's just like, it's an education unto itself. So, I mean, there's a whole nother level there that you really got to understand. And like for you to say, we know when our tree are going to produce because we've nursed it all the way and we know its history. That's a really cool thing to say. Like, we know the timelines, like from a chestnut tree, that all the different varieties. When's your ideal, and what species of or variety do you like the most for like a Michigan whitetailer?
So it really just depends on property application. So I know you design properties too. So like when I'm looking at a property, is it surrounded by a bunch of ag?
Yeah.
Because if it is, let's let the farmers feed them August through September, early October, and then we can hammer mid-October into January, February.
Yeah.
So really it depends on application. But again, we can have food on the property as early as August and keep those deer on the property again into January, February with a late drop apple, a chestnut. It's really about creating that diversity.
Yeah.
Especially, when they're worn out after the rut, you're providing a sugar content type food, as well as all the cornfields and food plots are probably depleted around you, as well as the basic apples, the Honeycrisp apple someone bought 2 doors down too, that already dropped in September.
Yeah.
So there's a way we can really diversify the property and make it more of like a social hub where they can come in and know until they're young that, hey, this food is here every single year. There's no pressure to make it produce. We don't have to go out there and plant it. It's there, it's thriving, it's working. And that's where I think the big misconception is. People think, I can only do food plots, or I can only do trees, or they can't mix. But in most applications, I'm putting trees on edges of food plots or in clusters inside the food plots because it's a nitrogen source for the roots. It's going to help them do better, grow faster, produce quicker, and it's a food plot.
Yeah.
So, it's a win-win-win.
Cool. Okay, so I have so many questions for you. I'm really excited for this.
Bring them on.
All right, so we'll stick on the chestnut train right now. How many different species of chestnuts are there that you guys have?
So we actually name them by the drop time because we have so many. So we have an August, a September, October, November, December drop. We also have like some European, Japanese crosses like Lyoroka. We have a 4A cold hardy strain like Lorraine that can go into upper Wisconsin, upper New York. That's the big thing with us too is, being out of Michigan, our products are suited for the colder climates, but they can also go south too.
Tough trees.
Versus a tree. Yeah, exactly. Because versus a tree coming from the south to north, there's usually a lot of hardship for that tree to survive. Not saying it can't, but it's just, we're more suited for, the areas that we're focused on, like Michigan, upper Pennsylvania, the Wisconsin areas. And chestnut typically comes from southern nurseries. So we're giving you a cold, hardy chestnut. On top of it, production in 3 to 5 years and the drop times. So if I can sell you 10 trees, because I do our consulting, if you weren't able to have me come out to your property and design it for you, I've hand developed all the different habitat packages you can buy on the website that include our kits. So if you wanted to go out there and buy 2 or 3 packs, you could throw 20, 30 trees, which 10 trees only covers 4,000 square feet. I think that's a big misconception too. That's not a lot when you look at a whole acre. And all you need is 4 hours of sun and we can make it work. So I think there's a lot of misconception around, can I get this to work on my property, or will this work on my property? When with our kit, we give you the 1-year warranty. And then in the name of no pressure, it's a maintenance-free application where you're not going in there and bothering them over and over again.
So keeping on that train, if you will, or that vein, the kit, tell us a little bit about what comes in that and what's that look like for the listeners. And then I got to go back to, in addition to that, answer the question of, if you would so kindly answer the question, do chestnuts, they produce every year?
Chestnuts do produce once they start producing, it's every year. So typically, like from a commercial standpoint, a mature acre, let's say on 15-foot centers, is about 200 trees per acre.
Okay.
And again, you're looking at a pound per tree by year 5. So it's about 200 pounds. At maturity, year 12 to 15, we usually get anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 pounds per acre.
How do you compare that to like a white oak? Like, what is a white oak producing then?
White oaks are going to be heavy producers too. The problem with an oak or an acorn versus a chestnut is it's very tannin. That's the bitter taste in the acorn. It's also very, very rough on a deer's jaw. If they're eating acorns nonstop, if that's all you have on your property, the deer are going to come eat them. But that's a rough fix every day eating a hard acorn. So a chestnut, for instance, is a soft mass nut that has this value. But it's not going to tear their teeth up either. It's not going to last on the ground for a year like an acorn. So it's something that is going to drive them to that spot faster before the other wildlife gets it. or it decomposes altogether.
I was gonna say, so when it comes to tonnage, so a chestnut produces as much, if not more than an acorn, or a little bit less, but more desirable, more beneficial.
I would say they're similar. It depends on the variety. Like we have a bodacious oak that it'll bend the limbs. It has so many acorns on it. But we also like our La Roca. It'll bend the limbs with chestnuts. So it really kind of depends on the variety. I'd say chestnut is a more vigorous producer, and it's going to give you the yearly crop that also tastes better and has the calorie value too.
Like instantly my head goes to when you talk about planting a variety of chestnuts. I mean, are you, when you prescribe something to a landowner, are you saying like, per your stand sites, I'm going to put December chestnut here, I'm going to put October chestnut here, I'm going to put November chestnut here? Can you do that to your property? And I guess to double on that, do you need to plant more than one chestnut?
Good questions. Chestnuts do need a second or third, which we always say plant them in at least 3 to 4 because they do need to cross pollinate to produce. So that's a huge factor. The biggest caveat to a chestnut is a well-drained soil. So they cannot handle wet feed at all.
Okay.
If it is wet, it's got to run off in 36 to 48 hours for them to be successful. So hillsides are great, or like shaly kind of rocky ground. Chestnuts do well too. But yeah, that's the big caveat where people get stuck, is that it will even overwater a chestnut, which will cause it to turn brown and actually droop and die. So it's a finicky tree, but again, it doesn't take a lot of work if you put it in the right spot in our kit. It's protected. It's keeping the wind off.
Sounds like a great tree.
Our
if you don't
mat,
water it.
exactly, yeah. So, and our weed mat gives you 4 to 7 weeks of moisture control. So as long as you're getting consistent rain every 3 to 4 weeks, you don't have to touch your chestnuts. We have 5 commercial orchards at Morse, and we don't touch them unless it's a drought for 3 to 5 weeks.
All right, so go tell us about the kit.
So the kit, and this goes with every tree besides like your spruce or pine tree, because it doesn't make sense from that standpoint.
Yeah.
It's a 5-foot tall tube. It's recycled plastic from here in America, milk jugs. Comes from a company called Tree Pro. We use them specifically just because Penn State's done studies, Michigan State's done studies where their tubes actually beat the competition, like TubeX and some other ones. So we stick with that for best results. The 5-foot tree tube, we use a 2.5-foot tree tube or shrub tube for shrubs. So there's a difference there, but the weed mat is a 3x3 foot double-sided plastic. It's not going to melt. It's UV protected. And then we give you a 2-year fertilizer pack. That way you're not just spraying fertilizer into the groundwater. And with that being said, it depends on your area, but if you're in bear country, I have a client, we just did a big project in Tyrone, Pennsylvania. It's west of State College. It's bear country. And instead of putting cages around everything, we just did a rebar, 1/2-inch rebar, not one issue. So you can really avoid the headache of repairing a cage, taking care of a cage. And at the end of the day, a cage doesn't keep the wind off. So any wind over 7 miles an hour actually stops growth in a young tree. And we don't know for how long. If it's a persistent wind, that's how you can see a tree sometimes kind of bush out versus going just straight up. And the tube will keep that stem straight up for the first 5 foot. So you're really developing a straighter, more veneer-like tree.
So when we look long-term with chestnuts, is there market value to them too in the future?
There's market value right now. And the reason there is because we import millions of pounds from China and Europe at the moment, just because the blight took out the original chestnuts. So that's why I mentioned like 2,000 to 3,000 pounds per acre at year 12 to 15. Last year, the wholesale price was $4 a pound. So, we're looking at 12 grand an acre yearly once you're at full maturity versus, not to knock farmers. I have leases and rent out land, but $250 an acre at the best sometimes. Whereas it's a long drawn process, but again, in 5 years, you could have a pound of nuts per tree.
Oh.
Wow. So were you talking about boards per foot?
Both.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, from a timber perspective too.
Yeah, from a timber side too. I didn't know that about you could actually
harvest chestnuts. Yeah.
So you can cut it down
Yeah.
for the timber, but I'd recommend not cutting it down unless it's, a super straight one. Because now chestnut timber is very high dollar for like the high designer tables, kind of like black walnut.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to go down the timber route, black walnut, Purdue #1 genetics are what you want to go after. But that's
Okay.
more of a long-term game, like
Right.
40, 50 years.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. I was just thinking like people like really set up their property of thinking again long term, like, yeah, through this next 40 years I'm going to feed the deer, but when it comes time to, potentially thin my timber again, like you could see return on investment out again. So how does a chestnut ever stop producing?
Unless it gets the blight, which all of ours that we sell are blight resistant. We stand by that. Unless it gets the blight, it shouldn't die, or unless it gets to a point where the branches are falling off of 50, 60, 70 years old. So it's going to be, for the life of your investment, you'll be alive while they're producing. And again, just the chestnuts, what I like to do on a property, if someone has, because I'm sure you deal with it too, a lot of guys have their own LLC for their property. They're looking for ways to turn a profit on that property besides just ag. And if typically commercial chestnuts are early season, so August, September dropping, and that's to avoid you collecting during the snow and stuff like that. And that's usually when the market is around September for the chestnut. So if you can, plant an early staging area, August, September chestnut, you can hone that in as an early kind of like, hey, here's some food, get a pattern going with the deer, but also collect that for profit, and then have strategic areas placed out for, hey, here's a late drop, a November drop cluster. Here's a December drop cluster. Here's them combined. Here's some persimmon mixed in with them, and really beef it up for the late season and still have a profit and feed the deer at the same time.
So we
got to go
stuck
back.
in my head. How do you collect the chestnuts?
Yeah.
That's what I'm like. If you
How do you collect them?
Yeah, like so if you actually wanted to, let's say,
Farm.
farm your property and do chestnuts, but you want to double that as deer hunting too, how are you collecting these to sell?
You're
them?
out there picking them up, dude.
That's what I'm thinking. That's the only way.
Lee goes out there with his little.
You're gonna need some good gloves if
Yeah.
that's the case. So I don't work for this company, or I don't sell their products, but it's called Bag a Nut. Shout out to them.
Shout out.
They have from a pull behind standpoint, you can get one to go behind your John Deere lawnmower, or you can get up to $100,000 full on AC machine to collect the nuts.
Okay.
The pull behind the four-wheeler is all you need, and it husks them and throws them in the crates for you. And then it's just about figuring out which ones are valuable, which ones are the float method, stuff like that.
Okay, so I'm saying the obvious here, where if you're planting some chestnuts for maybe like early season deer draw, but also production, like you're not planting them in the timber. You're planting them on the edges, maybe in a field setting, and then maybe moving in the timber with your later droppings.
Exactly. Or again, it just depends on the application. Like I had another guy in New York where he's in the CRP program and he can't get out of it for 3 years. So what we did was we planted all the edges of the fields on 2 rows, 20-foot centers. And now he has extended wood line, more of an edge, but that edge is going to produce chestnuts. So it's a win-win. He gets to keep the CRP. They're happy with it. And it's, there's ways to fit them in different ways. But if you're just doing a commercial orchard, I would recommend taking an open acre and filling that in.
So back to Lee's question, your opinion, Frank, on I know this might be simple to answer, but at the same time, you got a standing bean field, a soybean field, and then you got chestnuts. Dropping right now, you're in Michigan, we got snow, we got actual winter this year going on. How's that going to compete with a standing bean field if you got a chestnut tree that's just dropped and it's out there right now in December?
Well, if the deer, if they don't want to go after that chestnut, every other animal will, from turkey to, squirrels, they'll all be over the chestnuts trying to get them. So again, from the fact that it's a soft mass, it's not going to be there long. It differentiates and causes them to go to there first. Versus the beans are great, don't get me wrong, but what differentiates those beans from the beans the farmer are planting? I'm sure there's a little difference. I'm sure there's a little higher value to it, but at the end of the day, it's a soybean. If you look around your area, and I always joke, no one that lives around my hunting property knows what I do for a living, because I don't want them to go start planting chestnuts on their property and affect what I've been doing on mine. So again, just creating diversity with different types of food, dropping all through that late season when people don't have food on their property. Because again, the big thing that I see on properties is someone's trying to make that effort to go get the right trees in. They go buy Honeycrisp, they go buy some Fuji, the ones they like at the grocery store. They go buy those trees and plant them, but they don't realize they're dropping August and September. And all you're doing is feeding the deer possibly for someone else. Mm-hmm. So there's a way to be strategic about it. And if you already have those trees, again, that's great. That can become your staging area, and we can build different areas for the late season stuff too.
Awesome. And you said something earlier. You said 4 hours of sunlight, and that's all that's required. So not like north sides of food plots, all that kind of stuff is going to be enough where they're going to catch that sunlight through the course, like a 3/4 to 1 acre food plot. They're going to catch enough sunlight if they're on the edge of it throughout the course of the day to be able to produce.
You're exactly right, though. I mean, if you can add things in there like north side of the plot, morning sun is better than evening, just because it's not as like UV'd.
Yeah.
So if you can do those little things, you're gonna help it. But 4 hours minimum, and they'll still produce. They might grow a little slower, but they will produce.
So the last question I have on chestnuts is when it comes to nutritional for deer, do you know any of the, let's call it the actual hard facts on nutrition value for deer?
I don't have the exact ones off the top of my head, but I know, I think protein content is similar to the acorn, but where they get it at is there's more carbs associated and also a sugar content with the chestnut.
Sounds like a great thing to have in the woods right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Especially after the rut, when they're worn down and there's nothing else to eat, food plots are diminished, corn's gone, beans are gone. You're really driving them to come visit your property, at least, even if it's a smaller property.
Yeah, and that's what I really, really love the idea of. I haven't done much tree. I've done some, but I haven't done much. But I love the idea is when you look at developing your property to continuously bring deer. Let's narrow it down to late season. To consistently bring and train deer to come to your property, small food plots just don't cut it. Mm-hmm. They're usually worn out, wiped out this time of year. So the deer are leaving your property and going actively searching for new food somewhere else where maybe this farmer's just always late to cut his cornfield or whatever. They know where the food is the time of year. So by planting trees, I really like the idea of let's say again, late season, you have late droppers. You're training those deer to know at this time of the year, I'm going to go move to this property because I know that there's going to be food there. There's been food there the last 4 years. And it's not like a food plot failing where they go over here and don't see a food plot where with a bunch of brassicas, it's a tree producing this food source year after year after year, training your deer herd to continuously come back to your property.
Well, I'm just saying that, you take what you're saying there and then you lay over some other strategies too. I don't know how you guys feel about doe harvest, but if you have mama doe showing the 2 twin bucks, here's the apple tree, here's the chestnut tree that whole first year, and you get rid of her before that 1.5 year mark, I mean, they're going to stay there forever. They know there's food all around them. They know where to bed now. You can start combining different strategies to really take that to the next level. Because you're right. A good story I always tell is that my grandpa had a pear tree, right? And it was in a backyard. And this is before all the land around him got turned into
Is this a true story? Your grandpa
townhouses. It's a pear tree, yeah. It's a keeper pear tree.
It's a true story. Your grandpa did have the pear tree, right?
Yeah,
okay,
true story here. True story here, yeah. And so my grandpa had a pear tree in his backyard, not like a hunting property. It's a little, maybe 1/10 of an acre backyard, produced every year. Now it's surrounded by their city streets. There's all kinds of stuff that's developed around it. The deer still come. We put cameras up still. The deer still come at night, jump the fences, cross the roads to get to that pear tree because they know it's producing every year. Even though there's so much pressure around it, they still know, hey, worst case, I can go get a pear at that tree and be okay for extended time.
Yeah. Well, and I think a big part of understanding a deer herd and maintaining a deer herd to really be a herd influencer in your area is knowing that you need food. The way that I target is September 1 to January 1. That's our block in Michigan. So how do I keep them consistently going from bed to food in those areas? And I like what you said earlier, Frank. I'm not a big fan of having multiple different varieties of plots, just because I don't want things flipping at different times. Palatability, sugar contents, they all change. And now we're reassociating with bed to food movement and all that kind of stuff, the doe family groups. And that's where I'm saying, Frank, what you said of like, sprinkling in some apple trees and some chestnut trees in your food plot or right next to your food plot, so they're consistently associating with that same food. They're going to the same areas, they're staying in the same areas, not food plot over here and then tree planting over here, because then you're getting your deer to move around and shift and jockey and all that kind of stuff. But I really like this idea of like I really want to play with getting a good swatch of chestnuts in an area and see what we can do with that, because I really want to experiment with that more, and it's just been one of the things that I haven't done enough of.
Well, it's intimidating, like you look at investing in a tree, you buy, older trees, or you buy a number of trees. It can add up pretty quickly, and you just don't want to, like a food plot. Let's look at, like, people talk about, if food plots can get expensive, and they can, you got chemicals or whatever, but like really it's not that big of a deal if your food plot fails. I feel like it's intimidating for a tree, because, if I plant this tree and it doesn't like produce, or if it dies in 4 years, you have a very large investment, maybe not necessarily financially, but over time, of like kind of relying on that food source.
Sure. Well, and
also, you make a good point too. If you've already done all the work with the food plots to define these areas, get them on the same contents of sugar and all that stuff, you've already done all the hard work. Let's solidify the pattern you've created and extend it all the way through February.
Yeah, absolutely.
With the fruit and the nut trees.
Yeah, no, I love that. And like to what Lee is saying though, like for me, it's like, let's be honest, I'm just a McDonald's mentality raised individual that I was conditioned in that, where like, I don't want to wait 4 years for a tree to produce. You know what I mean? And then it's like, so to buy a 5-year-old tree, that's actually going to be really expensive. And now I got to like lug along a big pot and get that planted and make sure that it's good. Right. And so it's like, that's a total different investment, where it's like, but like
instant gratification,
but like what we talked about before, or with, our last guest about, land. When's the best time to plant or buy a piece of dirt? It's yesterday. When's the best time? Like
20 years ago.
Yeah. When's the best time to have planted a tree? 20 years ago. Like I wish I would have planted trees on this property. Like
you could have just raining chestnuts right now.
Raining chestnuts, just dripping chestnuts. I should just be laying in chestnuts right now and just like.
And I'll be picking them up.
You're just out there just picking. Yeah, that's what should be happening right now, and I should be sucking in the neighbor's deer, because I don't. And so like strategically, I'm like kind of mind blown right now, because it's like the smaller pieces of property where you can't put the grains that I want to put in the ground right now to have the bean field, to have the standing corn. Like, man, I got like 4 spots right now where I'm like, I need 10 chestnuts here, a couple persimmons, a couple apple trees that are, I know, working with Frank, like I know that are going to drop late. I know that this is going to be this timing. And then I'll sprinkle in some other ones along the way that might be early season ones and all that kind of stuff, where it's like, yeah, I know I got 4 hours of sunlight here. I know I got 4 hours of sunlight here. And like to really like to get those in those pockets, man, that's going to be cool. But yeah. And then I got to be like, okay, now I got to sit and wait. And I should have planted those 10 years ago, because then they'd be there and they'd just be rocking and rolling. But
collecting chestnuts.
I can't wait. Now I'm excited.
That's the hardest thing though, is just having the foresight though, like you said, like taking the time to plant a tree, because you're gonna reap the benefits of this tree. It's not gonna be like, well, maybe my grandkids will get to hunt under this tree. It'll be, hey, in 5 years. Like for instance, my personal property is 20 acres at this point. 7 acres of hardwoods, white oaks, hickory, 3-acre pond, and then the back field is it's like 10 acres of open, 7 to 10 acres of open. And I have I think it's like 60 trees on it at this point, mix of chestnut, persimmon, the apples and pears. It's year 6 of owning the property. I planted the second year. So this past year, it wasn't like every tree had so much stuff on it, but every tree had about a pound of fruit, a pound of nuts on it. So it really has made a difference. Whereas I have a 150-acre lease I can hunt. It's all black walnut. I have 3 or 4 shooters on my 20. using it as a hub because there's actually a different type of food. Now, my property is surrounded by ag, so all the ag's gone, and there's just nowhere else to go at this point.
I like it.
All right. So awesome information on chestnuts. Now let's move into, I guess let's stay on the soft mass train. When it comes to fruit trees and planting fruit trees, it's the same thing. You have your different varieties for different times of the year. So now let's break down into like, how do you decide between I want an apple tree or I want a pear tree or a persimmon tree, or how do you make that determination on your property? Because like I look at like, I love apples. It'd be cool to grow some apples, and well, I get free apples. My in-laws
I love apples.
I
He
do.
says, I love apples.
But like I look at like, how do you decide what to start with? Like that's my biggest thing with fruit trees. Like I want pears, I want persimmons, I want apples. I probably can't do it all at the same time. So where do you start?
So second best option besides the chestnut is persimmon. And that's not from me. That's from the USDA biologists we work with in Purdue University too. So it's not like me. I'm just saying, oh, I like persimmon best. Persimmon that we offer are self-pollinating females. So they are the same size, height, maturity wise as chestnuts. You can mix those in with chestnuts. You can even put one single one in an opening in the timber, as it's a self-pollinator. Again, so it just depends on application. Apples and pears, I like to mix those together. Again, same height at maturity, 20, 30 foot tall, so they can mix. They're not going to shade each other out.
Tree.
But my favorite, and not everyone agrees with me, my favorite trees we offer are two different apples. They're disease resistant. They're cedar rust resistant. Gold Rush and Enterprise apple. Both of those start dropping mid-October, and typically they go to mid-January, early February.
Oh, yeah.
So you mix those two together, and then you
Yeah.
throw some Kiefer pear, some hybrid pear, because they're same size. I like to create clusters versus just a giant acre of food. Unless you're doing commercial, that's fine. But from my experience, I've noticed when you do rows of trees, it's not natural.
Yeah.
It's not how the woods are going to grow unless they were planted by a forester. But if you can make a cluster of 8 apples here or 10 apples here, 10 chestnut here, you're going to create more movement throughout that property and more different hot spots to go to. And like you said, it doesn't have to be the food plot too. You can find, like I said, a 1/10 of an acre opening in the trees that gets 4 to 5 hours of sun and throw 2 persimmon in there. And I can guarantee they're going to start visiting that site once they're producing.
Or just cut down like property that I hunt. It's mostly soft maple. I'll just cut down the soft maple and create that sunlight for a second for them, and then plant that.
Exactly. Yeah. Go through that property. What I like to do on an on-site visit is find areas like that are already kind of open, that have some of that scrub non-producing tree around it. That if you have the equipment means or a chainsaw, take it down and let's fill that up with something that's going to produce for you. And now you've just added so much value exponentially, just from a food value wise.
How do you feel about, I know I don't want to take away from you guys' protection cages and all that and your insurance policy there, but like, what if you say, is there merit to like just dropping a treetop and then planting, let's say, a persimmon in that treetop? Do you recommend that, or is it be safe than sorry?
It depends. You can, if you're going to get that 4 hours of sun and you drop a tree like that, just the top, and you put, because tops are obviously good for browse and cover and stuff. If you can do that and get that tree established without shading it out, that's totally fine. One of my favorite things to do is take like a hinge cut area where you want to do some stuff like that, put a water hole in there, and let's fill that thing up with the different shrubs we offer. Because now you're giving browse, it's a huge part of the diet, obviously.
Yeah.
And then it's a summer foliage with berries, but it's not going to affect the late season hunting because it's done by then. It just turns into more of a thicket. So now you have a thicket with hinge cuts and tops laying around, just creating a really nice bedding situation in general. So I like the shrubs over just the trees. But again, if you want to put in, our pears are self-pollinating too. So you want to throw in 2 pears here, or 1 pear there, 1 persimmon here, you can do that and create value.
So now we're kind of changing gears into the shrubs and stuff like that.
Right.
And
Oh,
okay,
man,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I just feel like once I get in shrubs, I'm gonna get excited about. Are you talking shrubs right now?
Go do your apples.
Okay.
Talk about your favorite.
We can stay with the
apples.
fruit trees. I get ahead of myself a little bit, but let's stick
Yeah,
with the
because
fruit.
like we'll stick on fruit trees really
Yeah,
because
fine.
I'm excited about the shrubs too. I have a lot of questions on that. So sticking to the fruit trees, is there in even the chestnuts or even hard massing producers, is there like a certain you recommend this amount per acre for each species? Is it all different? How do you like when you really look at it? Are you saying like, okay, I guess the way that I would look at it is like I want to create said quote unquote food plot here in the woods of all these trees producing. So is there a certain amount of trees that you should be planting on? Are you planning on some maybe taking a year or two longer than the other tree to start producing? So you're planting maybe a couple more than you think? How do you approach that?
So 3 to 5 years on all the chestnut and fruit trees. The only one that's a caveat would be the oaks. They're going to be 5 to 8, sometimes 10, because you can't help with the oak sometimes. But chestnut and fruit trees, 3 to 5 years of age. So you can go in planting wise saying, hey, if I put these in these spots, I'm looking at, in 2 to 3 years, I should have some kind of production. Now, if you can take, if you're looking at like, let's say a 1/4 acre opening, so not very big, I would stick, for a 1/4 acre, we're probably looking at 20, 30 trees in that 1/4 acre, 3 different areas or 3 different small orchards. It's not a lot. Like you really think it sounds like a lot, but it's really not. If you wanted to fill that whole 1/4 acre, it'd be like 50, 60 trees. So 20 to 30 somewhere in there. And again, if you place them on the north side of the plot, you put them off the edge of the tree, you can avoid taking away the entire plot and still have that food plot available. But you don't have to go crazy. That's the thing. 10 trees on the 4,000 square feet, like I keep mentioning, will make a huge impact. Because if you did let's say our all-season chestnut pack, you're going to get 2 August, 2 September, 2 October, 2 November, and then 2 December chestnut all in one pack that you're now going to have food from August to December in that area if you so choose. So, and same with the fruit trees. We have the same kind of deal with those. An all-season apple pack. We have a big rack pack with our late drop pear and our best late drop apples. So there's ways, again, I've designed all those. So you don't have to go do a consultation with me or have me come out to reap those benefits and get those on your property too.
What's one of those packs like one of those costs?
It ranges, but usually around 200 to 400 depending on the pack. And you get the kits included with that with the 1-year warranty.
And that's the tubes, the mats, that's everything in there? Or
that's everything, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That's cheaper than hiring somebody to come in and clear out a food plot for you.
Well, yeah, if you only have a small, go knock the trees over, you don't have to de-stump it, you don't have to clean it all up, you just got to get sunlight in that area. You can throw food down and get that in there.
Also, again, it goes back to the intimidation side of like maybe tackling this. So like, let's say you get a all season package of chestnuts. How many trees is that?
10 trees.
10 trees.
And then 10 of the kits as well.
Okay. 10 trees, 10 kits. What kind of timeline do you have to get those trees in the dirt? And when are you getting them in the dirt? Like, are you like, do you have to be like, you have to be prepared when you order this kit?
So typically, like for right now, our big pre-ordering is going on now. So people are starting to reserve stuff for the spring. You can plant in the fall in some situations, and you can plant in the spring. We go exclusively with spring plantings after late frost in your area. And we've seen if you can avoid that late frost won't kill the tree, but it will shock it and stun its growth for a year or two. So if I can send you a live tree a week or two after your last frost, you have anywhere from 7 to 14 days to get that tree in the ground as a bare root, even because we put mycorrhizals on it. We put it in a situation where it's going to be okay. But obviously, the faster you plant it, the better. But you do have a little bit of a buffer in there as well. And if it's potted, then there's no rush. But that's what we don't want you playing nursery. If we can figure out your timeline, we can take care of keeping them alive, and then you plant when you're ready.
Gotcha. Cool.
Are you, like when it comes to the planting though, how do you recommend the actual planting part?
So for the bare root trees, it's pretty easy. You can use a small shovel. I tell people like an 8 to 12-inch auger if you have a tractor. If you anything over a 12-inch auger kind of disturbs the ground around it, so you just got to make sure you kind of pattern it back in so the stake has some support.
Yeah.
But I mean, auger is the best way to go. Or if you're doing thousands, then a tree planter is most efficient.
So you're using that big of an auger on a bare root tree, like you got to pack that all back down in there, right? And have you ever?
If you're using a 12, yeah.
Have you ever?
I've had to do that before.
What's that?
I've had to do that before with, sometimes that's all you have equipment wise, and the skid steer only has a 12-inch or bigger, so sometimes it takes a little extra time. But
have you ever used like an auger on a drill, like a small auger?
Yes, and I about broke my arm.
Hit a stump.
Yeah.
So we were doing some clay, and it was it'd catch, and when you got the stakes in the ground already, it's not a good combo.
I gotcha. I slammed you into a stake. Gotcha.
So you are like, it is important though, like once you get that tree in the ground, you are packing that soil around that tree, correct?
Correct. Yeah. And I usually use my feet to really kind of secure it. I'll step on each side of the tree just to get it nice and secure. But it's really for the stake. You just want to make sure that stake has support and it's not falling over, because the stake falls over, your tree's falling over.
All right. Can we?
One other thing too, with you guys mentioned earlier, people always see the bigger tree, and they're like, "Hey, if I get this 5-year-old for $300, maybe, it'll produce next year." And I'll be honest with you guys, I want to sell bigger trees too. It's more money for us. However, it's not the best way to go. If you can buy a younger tree, there's typically less chance of a shock because the roots aren't as complex yet. So I've seen a 1-year-old 1 to 2 footer in a kit beat a 5-year-old tree that was almost 10 to 12 foot tall in a kit as well, just because that root complex was so complex that it sent it into shock when it found its new spot from planting. So I always push people to younger trees. Do it right, spacing wise. Don't expect to come back in and thin them out. If you do it right the first time, it's going to be a long lasting project for you without, coming back to thin stuff out and remove trees, stuff like that.
So I know you want to get to shrubs.
No.
So you're saying when it comes to soft mass, chestnut's your number one pick.
Yeah.
From there, persimmon.
Persimmon number 2.
Then pear is number 3, or no? You went apple.
He went apple.
Pear, you're right. Pear would be number 3, just because apple is such a common thing for people to buy. So from a diversity standpoint, if I can put a pear out, a late drop pear versus your Honeycrisp apple is going to win every time. But I'm biased. The Enterprise and Gold Rush apple are my favorite trees we offer, even though it's fourth on the list.
So even with the pear trees, you have different trees for different types of different times of dropping, correct? Like you can do an early pear and a late pear.
Yes, and like for instance, you guys mentioned, if it's your personal farm, something I like to do too early season is you can put those Honeycrisp, you can put that Seckel pear in kind of like a family orchard that gives those deer an early season feed, lets you and the kids go grab like a legacy kind of orchard deal, grab an apple, eat it on the way to the stand, and then not affect your hunting. So we can, again, if you want that on your property from a homestead standpoint, we can still mix that kind of stuff in too. But yeah, we have the different pears. Our top 2 are Kiefer pear, which is a big teardrop like pear. Very good to eat. Self-pollinator, drops October to early December. And our hybrid pear is more deer focused, round Asian pear, not as good to eat. But those are our top 2 pears.
When you say dropping October to December, is that just kind of gauging on each year's different with the weather? One year could be a better producing year and it produces more, so it drops later in the year, or what do you mean by that?
So we're gauging this off of, and I gave that window because you're right. It could start a little earlier. Some years it could start a little later depending on weather, but that's the parent tree is dropping every year in that time frame. So every time I talk about a drop time, it's from the 20, 30-year-old parent tree that's doing it, that we're collecting the sign wood from to give you an exact clone. We're collecting the chestnuts and the seed from the certain oaks too, to give you the exact same oak. All that is very detail oriented.
Mm-hmm. So what about, as we're talking about pollinators, I don't want to derail us completely, but bees, pollination and all that kind of stuff. What are you doing, or what do we need to do, or what do we need to be aware of in that realm?
That was a perfect segue because after apples are crab apples would be the next before oaks. And our crab apples are more apple-like. So the real reason you plant a crab apple, so in a commercial standpoint, it's every 7 to 8 apples you plant one crab apple. And the reason is the crab apple actually produces 1,000 times more flowers each spring than a normal apple tree. So if I can put one of those more central to the apples, the bee will find that crab apple and then find the trees located around it.
Gotcha.
So crab apples are a great way to promote pollination. And if you can get bees on the property, I just did a project in Columbus, Ohio. He's going to put in 3 different hives across the property just to enhance and ensure pollination. Because if you don't have bees in the area and frost gets to that flower before a bee does, you will not have production. No matter how good the tree looks, no matter how much water you gave it, if it doesn't get pollinated, it won't produce from the bee. So bees are huge. I don't sell bees personally, but I definitely would recommend them. And it's going to give you great honey too. I mean, if you have all these different apples and fruit and chestnut, you're going to get the flavored honey kind of going too.
I don't know if this dude's ever going to watch this, but I'm going to tell a story. I'm going to leave his name out of it. But I was looking at a piece of property, and he's a realtor. He's in this area. You know him. But we're driving along, and all of a sudden, like, the dude just got mad. And, like, we were having a great conversation, hanging out, having fun, and he just got mad. He's like, I hate it when people do this. And I was like, what? I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, right? And like we're on like a 55-mile-an-hour road, and I look, and he stops, and he just like points at the bee boxes, and they're right next to the road, and he's like, see, look at this, and there's just all the bees are coming out. He's like, we're just murdering bees. People are just driving by here, just murdering bees. These bees are way too close to the road, and so now everybody's driving their truck through here and just smashing bees, and I'm like, wow, I never thought about a bee crossing sign, but I was like, maybe he needs to put a little flashing light up here.
Bee crossing sign.
And he's like, I was joking with him about that. He's like, no, they just need to move their bee boxes 100 yards off the road so they're not just like right here. Because, he talked about how they move and all that kind of stuff. But
bees are, not to derail us even further, but bees are incredibly fascinating. Was it last year or 2 years ago? I sat in a pop-up blind in Kentucky. We were banding turkeys. So we're in a pop-up blind, and we're sitting over a corn pile with a net gun out front. Needless to say, the turkeys were not cooperating with the corn pile, and they did not come. So I was in the blind for 3 days straight with a beekeeper. And this guy filled me in on just like at literally everything about bees. But you really like, and when you talk about putting it on a property, like it's the benefits of having literally like, which I didn't fully comprehend, the benefits of having bees on your property is just endless. And I think it's something that's so overlooked, and it can be done fairly easy. I mean, you can actually like, people will more or less like, you can like, they'll come and bring the bees to your property for you. Like you can have all that done. It's crazy.
And they'll just work the hives on your land, and they just want an area to do it on. And I would imagine if you have a whole bunch of apple trees, that it'll.
Yeah, like my in-laws are all fruit farmers, and every single one of their farms has a hive on it.
Yeah. Well, you have to there. So, interesting. But that's fun stuff. I you lost me with net gun, and so now I just really want to find a net gun and shoot you with it. But that's a whole nother thing into itself. I would like to do that.
To derail us off of bees now. All right. Before that, we were talking about fruit. Are we good on fruit? I know you want to talk about shrubs.
I think we're good.
You're good with fruit?
I just want to like really touch on, I just got one question. So like, is there because we talked about crab apples, we just didn't really finish that thought, or I didn't finish it in my mind. Like, is there a per number of fruit trees on your property to crab apple trees that you would say, like, if I got 20 apple trees, I need 1 crab apple tree? Is there a ratio that you put there?
Yeah, so I follow the commercial guideline with that just because it's standard, but usually 1 crab apple for every 9 trees.
Okay.
9 apples.
Awesome.
Yep.
That answered it.
And Is it like a thing where you can't have enough crab, like the more crab apples potentially the better? So, or is it just like your space type of thing, give or take? Like, is it because the deer are going to eat crab apples too, right?
They are, and that's so I get into that with people quite often. It's like, it's a colder environment. The crab apples only work up here. Well, if we can put a 4A cold hardy apple in that area, the deer is going to eat the apple first. Again, more sugar content, bigger apple. It's going to drop longer too in most cases. A lot of our crabs are a short window. It's like a month, and they're in different times. Like Nova Scotia drops in October, our Whitney drops in November, but it doesn't extend like the apples. So if you're able to, put the apple in, especially people get worried about the cold hardiness and go for the only crab apples will work. That's not the case, but they do make a good pair together, similar height. But the real factor for me is just for pollination, because if you can put an Enterprise apple out there versus the Nova Scotia crab apple, the deer is going to go hit the Enterprise from mid-October into January versus the Nova Scotia for 1 month.
Makes sense.
Okay, now you can move on to whatever you wanted.
Well,
next.
is there anything else before we jump on to the shrub life? Anything else on your trees specifically, like that you wanna mention, bring up, or recommend?
Not really. Honestly, guys, again, I mentioned the packs again. If anyone out here is looking for a place to start, I push them to go to our habitat bundles on the Morse website, just so you can get an idea of how I'm thinking and how I'm pairing the trees together. And then you can go a la carte it if you want. It's a better deal to get the pack, but you can go a la carte it and mix up what you want on your own. Just, it's always better to have the deer on your property longer than just having them, focusing on just 1 month. But again, that can work. But again, it's the name of keeping them around. I'd say try to fill up from August into December, January with everything, the different varieties.
Just out of curiosity, how big is when we look at Morse Nursery, like how many acres of trees do you guys have?
So that's a great question. The original nursery is only about 20 acres that has all the parent trees on it. And we're talking about 1 or 2 of each parent tree on the property, minimum. But we have, again, 5 commercial orchards. Each commercial orchard has over 500 trees to 1,000. It's spread out from Arkansas all the way up to Michigan to Missouri. We have them all over the place. Those are mainly commercial. But our grow op area in West Lafayette is actually almost 10 acres of just rows of trees.
A lot of trees.
West
A lot of
Lafayette.
trees, yeah.
There it is again.
I know it's a sign.
There it is.
There it is again.
I guess I'm not done with trees yet. So grafting. I want a quick touch on grafting. Yeah. So do you guys, graft trees, or do you recommend any sort of for a client to end up grafting? Let's touch on that a little bit.
So all of our fruit trees, we take the sign wood from the parent trees in Battle Creek, and we graft it for our apple trees. It's an M1 semi-dwarf rootstock. It's better for dry conditions. And then all of our pear is grafted with what's called Old Homestead 97. So those are some tree nerd comments I'm making right there.
No,
but
I love it.
It's very important, because if I can take the sign wood from this known parent producer, like for instance, a persimmon, the biggest thing with persimmon is you can go buy them super cheap on the state website, any state, but they're seedlings. So for a seedling persimmon, you need a male and a female, and you won't know until they're 8 to 10 years old which ones are which. So if you guys are like me, my luck, I buy 100.
It's only the female that produces, right?
In the wild persimmon, only the female produce. Yeah. And why I'm making this point is because it's grown from seed. So this is the reason why grafting is so important. With us, we have a known self-pollinating female. So when I take that limb and graft it to our rootstock, I'm able to give you an exact clone that is also a known self-producing pollinator, without you playing the game of, out of these 100 I just bought for 50 cents, will 3 of them be a female? Will any of them be females? So you're really playing a guessing game, and it's more of a fundraiser for the state, which I'm all for making money for habitat and stuff like that. But if you're going to make an investment on your long-term hunting property like this, that's why people come to us, is because we can do it right the first time. So it's not guesswork. You're not hoping they produce soon. It's, hey, I've talked to you 3 years later. Are they producing yet? How much are they producing now? We can do this to make them even better. So it's really down to a science with us. And it's not just me just making stuff up. It's come from the original guy, Charlie, who, studied at Michigan State, the different studies we go through with Penn State, Purdue, the USDA. It's all knowledge from them, not just my personal opinion.
So I've personally seen a lot of times where I get onto a piece of property though, and I see a lot of guys like they try to do the grafting themselves, and they're trying to graft trees and it seems like some of these old timers, it has been in my opinion that some of these old timers, they work on the wrong things on their property. They haven't even set up bed to food movement. They haven't even established bedding areas, and all they're doing is just, or they're all they're working on, and they spend all of their time on things like grafting a couple trees, and then they fail and all that, and then they get all disheveled and stuff like that. So from your perspective, how much are you doing that, and how much do you recommend people actually do that or try to attempt to do that themselves?
I think if you're trying to do it at this point, it's more of like a novelty.
Yeah.
Like, you like to collect things, you like to work, which that's totally fine. But
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we do professionally. I mean, it's what we make our money and our living doing. So we have an old guy that grafts better than any old guy you ever met. So he's been doing it for 20 years. We have other guys that have been doing it for 20 years. So it's like, if you want a ready to go product that you can just put in the ground with the guarantee behind it, all you have to do is click on our website and place an order, and you're going to get that. It's not going to be, hey, I hope this works. We even have YouTube videos that are, it's me, 15 minutes, step by step, how to plant your tree with the kit, all that stuff. Because we know how it is when you first plant. There's so many concerns. There's so many worries. What if this dies? And we just want to put all that to rest, make it as maintenance free as possible. Because as you know, almost all my clients I do consulting for don't live on the property. So we're trying to make sure this thing is going to live and do all right without them going out there with buckets of water and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
When it comes to, do you guys do any sort of conifer tree? Do you?
So we specifically do Norway spruce. And the reason we do that is they're more browse tolerant. I've seen where people will put out the jack pines, the white pines, and the deer. For some reason, they love to rub them, and they'll even eat them. If there's no food around, I've seen them eat the white pines.
Oh yeah, destroy them.
So, the Norways are too rough for that. If they're eating Norways, you have bigger problems on your property than anything else. You need more food around. So,
Yeah.
So
Norways are great for thermal bedding,
Mhm.
and also great for road screens, anything like that.
Well, that's why I was going to ask you. Do you guys dabble into any miscanthus at all?
So we don't sell it, but I push miscanthus big time.
Mhm.
If you have a road, I have it on my property. If you have a road screen that you want to put in, I always tell people, I can sell you these offset centered Norway spruce on 5-foot centers for the 100-foot, but you're not going to realize that screen for 5 to 10 years. So if we can put miscanthus in the ground on the outside of those trees while they're growing, miscanthus, mine got the 6-foot this past year, and I planted some almost into June because I was running out of time, and it's still got the 6-foot this year and still doing fine. So it's an immediate screen with miscanthus, and I'm all about using it for turning a giant food plot into smaller ones, making the maze kind of concepts with the miscanthus, because it's just the cheapest option to create those screens, and it doesn't spread obviously like those olives and stuff like that, Russian olives.
Yeah.
Bamboos.
That's what I was going to kind of get
Yeah,
to.
the
is,
bamboo.
Like, when you're looking at like the screening purposes, maybe you have enough thermal cover on your property where you don't need to plant any conifers, but for screening purposes, like that's what I always kind of like gear towards is like think long term is I think is great, but like you said, there's a short term solution that can get you to where you want in a shorter term while those trees are actually growing. Because you said realistically, I feel like 3 years you're seeing that it's becoming a screen, but it's probably not quite totally screening yet.
Exactly. And the Norway spruce is similar to like the mustard seed, where if I give you a 2-year-old, it's probably not going to grow much in the next 4 years, but year 5, year 6 after being planted, it can shoot up 8 to 10 foot. So it really just is having the patience with the screening. But you're so right. Miscanthus is a screening person's best friend on top of access. If you got to access your property and it's hard to get in there, miscanthus, you can make tunnels. The deer will use them too sometimes, but it's helped me tremendously accessing my property in certain spots.
Absolutely. And Lee and I were just, when I remember when you walked out there and saw it the first time, you're like, I can't believe this miscanthus is growing in the woods the way it is. Like it is surprising. Like, some of them when it's 75% shade. Yeah. You're just going to have a few stalks but it still grows. The crazy thing is you can just move them around too and pop them up and pop chunks of them off of them. I
transplanted some last year for the first time, and I was very pleased with how easy and how well it took. Where I did it was very sandy soil though, so it takes a little time for it to establish. I think it's got pretty decent sunlight, could be better, but I think with the soil and the lack of sunlight, it is taking a little bit longer. But I'm on year 3, and it's a screen now.
Yeah.
It's still a screen. Yeah, that's the beauty of it. It's still going to find a way. And I've even heard of people, I don't know if have you guys tried this, where you plant it the first year as it's starting to grow up and then rototill it in that area. So it spreads the rhizomes out so now you have a thick screen and it still grows up kind of the same.
Yeah, that and whacking them, dude. Like really cutting them back.
Yeah, whacking them.
Yeah, cutting them back and stuff like that. Well, boom, it'll jump back up, and playing with trees is one thing that I don't do enough, and playing with and manipulating stuff like where guys have overbrowse in a certain area, and now you got this little bush tree that you haven't been able to get growing, and you want this area to thicken back up, to actually go through there and cut all those, because now you got all that energy in the root. And so it grew, it browsed, and so now it's just kind of this dumb looking thing. But you go cut that down right at that root, and because there's so much more energy in those roots now, it'll jump back up and it'll surpass the deer that next year. And those are just cool little tricks that make it why isn't this area thickening up? And it's well, because the deer are keeping it back, and then you can go in there and cut those, and now that they have a bigger root established, they just take off and they fill in those areas so much better. So, but
you're speaking my language.
You're not doing that with the new chestnuts that you can just
no, we're not. No, we're just talking about deer habitat and having fun.
No, but guys, that's what I'm saying. You will do that because, for instance,
really,
let's talk shrubs a little bit. With the shrubs, we put them in the small shrub tube.
Yeah.
We put them in the small shrub tube so that they can actively be browsed by the deer.
Yeah, okay.
And the reason we do that is because it's natural pruning. Every time they're browsing, more multi-stems are coming out of the shrub. And eventually, they might keep up with it for the first year or two. But after that, it's just too much production for them to keep up with.
Yeah.
And you can do the same thing. There's sometimes where we've had a full chestnut tree. It's starting to die. It's maybe 10 foot up. It produced this year, but it's wilting and dying, and there's a new stem coming out of the bottom. If you prune that old stem, we've seen that stem shoot taller than that tree in a matter of months, because like you said, the roots are still growing. The roots are bigger. It's not like just because that stem died, the roots are dead.
Yeah.
If it's pushing something new out, they're alive and well. So by doing that extra pruning, you can help that tree grow faster, even if you're having issues.
I like it. I've been playing with all sorts of stuff, and one of the things that this year has been for a screening, going back to screening or whatever, is just berms. They're crazy. They work. But they're effective, and you got to get big equipment in there. But man, it changes the dynamic of how a deer associates with a roadside, just because it's a wall of dirt that's really protecting them from it. And it's they're willing to come out there, and then you get a little bit of grass plantings on top of that. It does work. But all the stuff, and it's hard because, I always associate doing habitat work with somebody's financials, when they're like, well, what should I do here? And it's well, I can't help you in the stock market and tell you about your investments unless you share all of what you have going on in your life. And so I can know where's a good play. And every piece of property has so much diversity and so much going on where it's just well, this might be a good tool, but it's not, because, and I could tell you to go, build a berm right here, but it's really not the right thing to do right here, because it'd be better to actually put miscanthus in there. It'd be better long-term to do miscanthus and some conifer plantings. And it would be even better if you could do, whatever the next step would be to make it long-term. Yeah. And that's where getting boots on the ground and really seeing what's going on is very, very beneficial for a lot of guys, especially when you're investing a ton into a long-term play here. Yeah,
and I agree, especially if you're doing an on-site with somebody like you do as well. it's crazy how much more you can see. Obviously OnX and the LiDAR, you can see a lot of stuff virtually, but when you can get on a property, you can truly identify those areas that we can make an impact easier than just kind of hoping they show you that in an aerial.
Mm-hmm. Unless it's a drone aerial.
Yeah, drone aerial.
I was going to say, yeah, hey, you guys got the drones, right?
The drone makes a big difference on what's going on. So to bushes, to shrubs. I call them bushes because I like bushes.
Shrubs. All right. Let's quick run through. This might be too long of a list, but what do you guys got on the shrub menu?
So my top shrubs that I recommend, I'll go through my top 5. Thicket plum is probably the top 1 or 2. The turkeys love it. It's like a small, it's probably double the size of a grape, little plums. Turkeys love it. The deer browse it. That's my number 1. It can be in wetter areas too. Number 2 is our dwarf. Go ahead.
Let's go right through a couple facts for number 1. Like, are you planting those on edges? Are those field settings? Where are you planting those?
So I'll be honest, the way I like to approach it is, again, you can do edges or hedges, however you want in a food plot. You can do an existing, like if there's a fence line with some trees on it, you can build that fence line up to create an edge. What I like to do is find openings that are near food plots. And again, maybe take out some scrub maples or something and do a randomized planting of 5 or 6 different shrubs in one area. So creating like a diversity thicket. So like I'll mix thicket plum, a silky dogwood, a serviceberry, a dwarf chinkapin, and maybe a cranberry or a thicket crabapple all in one area. Plant those on 15, 10, 20 random centers so they're not in rows. So it makes it feel more natural and the deer can make their pass through that area and really create a thicket out of it.
So are you doing this as just cover, or like are you looking at this as potential bedding?
As both. I mean, if we can create more cover late season because they're going to thicken up later on, but also you're creating that summer foliage we talked about. So they can browse that, the woody browse as well, obviously, but a lot of these shrubs I mentioned usually have a berry attached to them. So just kind of that helps increase that value. They're great too. Like we mentioned, the spruce and the miscanthus. It's great to put a shrub hedgerow in of like silky dogwood. You can put those in the taller tubes and make them grow more like miscanthus. And now you have berries attached to it too. So there's a lot of ways to kind of skin the shrubs and go different routes with them. But I always find the best making these like little diversity pockets where you can have a little bit of browse, a little bit of cover, all in one.
Cool. And what's the shrubs typically, from my experience, grow a little bit faster. But what are you looking at from getting those established and all that kind of stuff from a timeline standpoint?
It's going to take a little longer.
Okay.
And I typically look at the shrubs as more like a phase 2 deal. Like if we can get the trees in, it's, that's going to create the biggest change in 3 years when they start dropping.
Yeah.
The shrubs, I always tell people get so excited to tear all their current crap shrubs out. And I'm like, hey, let's do this section first. Let's keep, obviously the deer are living here. Let's not take everything from them.
Yeah.
Let's take this small section and let's revamp it with, the plum, the cranberry, the elderberry. And then let's do another section the next year. It doesn't have to be a one-time deal. I know a lot of the guys we consult with aren't very patient and they want it done now. But if we can phase this out and do it the right way, it's a one-time installation. You're never going to go back and tear stuff up.
Yeah.
But the shrubs, we want the shrubs to be browsed.
Right.
80% of their diet is browse anyway. Why hold it away from them when they'll actively browse?
Well, that's the trouble with like autumn olive and all that. You know what I mean? It doesn't get browsed, and so it's just that's why it grows out so crazily all over the place. And but I do see, like you said, so many guys just want to and I'm not saying there's not a time and place for just complete invasive removal, but at the same time, let's work with our invasives as we have, and as we remove them, let's integrate, the ones that we want to be there and remove them in phases, and then we're not, instead of just going through there with a foliar stream mulcher and which on all of our deer habitat out of the ground and having nothing.
Having to wait for 5 years to see
and having to fight
for
them.
Everything, yeah.
Right, and then having to fight them returning and all that, and trying to de-stump them and spray the stumps and all that kind of stuff. Because if you do it in clusters and pockets, then you can kind of manipulate and massage it back to life instead of just having a deer desert for a period of time and all the little shoots that come up that they don't browse still. It's no fun. So.
Yeah, that's the hard thing. They're not browsing that olive. It's great habitat, but they're just not. That's why it gets so out of control.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you get a 5-acre pocket of that, 10-acre pocket of it, and the deer don't even go inside it anymore. You might have some multiflora rows around the perimeters of it and all that kind of stuff that they're messing with and all that, but like you go in the middle of them, the only thing you find in the middle of them is occasional deadhead because he crawled all the way up in there and died. And that's it.
Yeah.
They don't even go up in there. They can't. They don't.
Yeah.
They don't army crawl through there.
So number two, number 2 shrub on your list.
So this one is kind of an oak and shrub. It's our dwarf chinkapin oak. And the reason it's a shrub is just because of the way it grows. It's a cross between 3 different oaks. Produces actually in 2 to 4 years a small tanninless acorn. You can actually eat them. I don't recommend it, but you can. They actually aren't bitter. But production, we have 3 or 4 parent ones in Michigan, and they only get 3 hours of sun. So they're shade tolerant. They have swamp white cross in them, so they're wet tolerant. But we're talking 30,000 plus acorns every year from these 4 dwarf chinkapin. They're mature, but maturity for them is 12 to 15 foot tall, 10 to 12 foot wide.
Wow.
So another great shrub to kind of throw in there. And it's so there's smaller acorns that get browsed, so it's more of a September crop. Again, not going to affect those late season hunting areas, but can still make those bedding diversity pockets where make them hot spots to visit, early season.
Wow, yeah, that's
so mixing.
great.
Think about it.
I
Mixing
can
the
really think of a
thicket
spot.
plum with the chinkapin it's diverse. Who else is your neighbor's not doing that. And if we can do more things your neighbors aren't doing, you're going to see more deer.
What did we just have the same conversation? Just all you
the
got to do is
last
beat your
podcast, we
neighbor.
literally
All
just
you got to
had
do
that.
is beat your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, don't tell them what you're doing, but
yeah.
smile and wave.
Smile and wave. I hate you, guy. You always shoot the big deer over.
What are those white things in your backfield? I don't know. I need to get rid of them. I don't know.
You got so much plastic tubes all over. No, that I can literally, when you were saying that, I literally can think of a spot on my property that like I could put that if it can handle wet feet. Like I can think of a perfect spot that would do well there. And that's a faster turnaround time too than you said. Most shrubs, are a little bit longer to get established.
Yep. And also, dwarf chinkapin's great. I like to do, if you do any wood duck hunting, it's a great way to build, because they can be in wet feet. So great way to build edges on ponds, stuff like that. And the acorns are very small, so the ducks love them too.
Like how wet a feet are we talking?
I'm talking like
It's on a
they have a
massive
swamp
pond.
white cross in them. So, and we have 5 different oaks that are swamp white crosses. So we could do a diversity mix around a pond edge, and you're going to have acorns falling into the water. I'd say you just don't want them completely submerged. So finding like the higher areas in the lower area is always best. But as long as it's getting out of there in 72 hours or maybe a little longer, you should be fine.
I know.
Like
res.
I know like red oaks or dogwood wet or not quite that wet.
Yes.
That
Yes,
wet?
those are dogwood wet.
Okay.
Maybe a little less wet, but
Yeah.
it has the swamp right characteristics, so they do really well. And also another great one, my next one was silky dogwood.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with the silkies. Red osier is great, but it's only woody browse mainly.
Yeah.
So if you can provide the silky, it has that berry aspect to it too.
Snap, here we go.
So it makes it a little better and still does well in the wet
Get
area.
us an
Your
order.
shopping
Get us
cart
an
is
order of
getting big.
2,000 silkies. 2,000.
Yeah, so Jay just recently purchased his property it's a swamp.
It's a swamp.
It's a straight swamp, and
Okay.
it has it doesn't have much diversity. It really doesn't, and like not a lot of trees. And
It's cattail marsh and willows, willow brush. Throughout the whole thing. It's deer.
I've seen that in Michigan before.
Yeah, it's deer habitat. It's crawling with deer. But like, I just die this time of year not being able to put an acre or two of corns and beans and what I mean, that kind of stuff where you're even brassicas. Really, we don't even have that much an opportunity for that, and so it's like to get some shrubs and some trees in there that would
any sort of food.
any kind of food at all.
I was messing around with some food plot. Like I go to the co-op and buy seed mixes every year and mess around. But I was doing my lower pond area around my pond with red clover, a cereal rye, and then winter wheat for like just a cover. And it's still thriving around my ponds right now. Not big areas, but that with in areas you can find some higher areas in that swamp. We could put some stuff in there and then build up some different shrub options. and throw in some different swamp white oak crosses too long term.
Well,
The oaks are just more of a long term play.
Yeah.
But once they're producing, obviously we all know acorns work.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking around your, like that, I don't want to call it a food plot because it wasn't a full attempt at a food plot. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
No.
But your clearing that you have available, I was just thinking of the stuff that you could put around that would really.
Oh, for sure. And there where all the trails are, there's enough high areas in there that, there are some big trees. There's a lot more big trees.
I know. I'm just joking when I say you
know,
only have
but
4 trees.
I go out there and I'm like, oh, why didn't I put a tree stand in that tree? Oh, why didn't I put a tree stand in that tree? Oh, because I was thinking there's no trees, but there's some trees.
It's because you went soft in your days and just
if there's
hung blinds.
that means you can get other
I was
stuff to grow
always
too.
He's giving me a bunch of res and over here telling
I was
me
gonna say,
soft.
never heard a man harass a man on his trees.
No, it's not on his trees. It's what he puts next to the trees.
It's on my box blinds. I have to call it out, Frank. I mean, this 40-acre piece of property has 12 elevated box blinds. I did not install these. This was purchased this way. I did put 2 on there because
10 wasn't enough.
No, because the 10 were not in the right spot for what I was doing, and so and I had the 2 off of a sold piece, and it was like, you can't just leave a brand new Banks blind sitting here that you're not gonna hunt out of. So you might as well go set it, right, Frank? Come on, give me some.
How many of those did you sit in this year?
Of those blinds? Of
the 12.
Of the 12? No, I got in more than 2. Did I tell you that one of the dudes from Step Free almost died out of the blind that Diablo was in?
No.
He broke the top step and almost fell out of that thing.
Not surprising.
Not surprised. They're all really rickety, and they're 14 feet up. And
they're like old man tower, like the original. When people first started hunting out of tower blinds, these had to have been the first tower blinds.
Yeah,
ever
these
in
are
Michigan.
These are the original.
these are fiberglass, old school. He actually the
Are they
owner.
fiberglass? I thought they're all wood.
No, they're fiberglass. The owner of this piece of property owned a blind manufacturer back in the 80s. So these are 80s manufactured box blinds that no one was buying. Well, people were buying
so
them.
You just kept putting them up.
So he put them everywhere, and so I probably got in 4 or 5 of them this year. I sat in my Banks blinds more because they're not full of spiders.
You got to give him credit though. If he built them in the 80s and it's 2020 and they're just starting to really go downhill,
Well,
it's not bad.
I was going to say in the Michigan weather too.
not
The
bad.
blinds
He had a
themselves
good
are not
product.
bad. It's the ladders that are climbing up to them and all that kind of stuff that
And the windows.
failed. The windows are really actually. He's got a cool little thing there. They have he's got a
draw
strap.
cord?
It's got a draw cord, and they actually close a solid piece of fiberglass. So in the off season, you can shut down the whole thing. They got shutters around the actual plastic windows. So they work as curtains. And so if you want to black out behind you, you can black those out, and then you can open them. And so I'm just in there the whole time, just playing with the windows. I'm I'm gonna close this one so I can pretend I can't see over there. And then I open it and I look. And sorry, I'm just goofing off now.
Yeah. I don't even remember. Awesome. We were at number 3. What are we on?
Third shrub.
Third shrub, yeah. The silky dogwood.
Silky dogwood. Yeah, we established
Red
that.
Osiers,
Yes.
twin brother.
2,000 of them.
Mm-hmm. 2,000
coming our way.
Mm-hmm. And that's wet soil. That's you just stick it in the ground.
Same characteristics as the red osier, but it has that berry to it as well, so they can browse it. And then I even use it on properties like a screen, like miscanthus. If you put that actually in a 5-foot tube, it'll grow more, the multi-stems will grow more straight, and you can have it be taller more with the silkies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you have to tube those because they'll get browsed down if you don't tube those?
Yeah, so that's why we do the 2.5-foot tube usually. The deer can't get their nose in there to eat it to the ground, so they can only cut it back to where the tube stops, that 2.5-foot mark. And that's why I mentioned it's like us pruning the shrub.
Mm-hmm.
It just starts more stems come out each time.
Gotcha.
If you did hypothetically,
I know you're thinking about your red osier dogwood food plot right now.
if you hypothetically put 2,000 or 1,000 of them without tubes, how mowed back are they going to be?
Depends on how many deer you have. With that wet of a property, and I mean, I don't know, you guys do the drones with the herd analysis, right? So I have to lean on you guys a little bit, but if you put them in there, they should be okay. I would say if you were doing that many, you wouldn't possibly, and it's how wet it is, you wouldn't need the mats too. You might just be better off just doing the 2.5 foot tubes so they don't get eaten, or letting them go the first year, and then the ones that do well, putting small tubes on those.
Okay.
With those, are you
First,
just are you
going
walking
on.
around doing sticking them in the ground and calling them? Like, could you?
So I honestly, because I do sometimes, like on a bigger project, I'll come out there and I'll help lead. I have a guy out of Michigan that does a lot of planting for me. I'll actually go mark all the spots. So I'll lay everything out to where I want it based on spacing and stuff like that. But the shrubs, again, if you can avoid rows and make it more random and scattered, it just fills the area better. Let them make the path through there.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah. So number 4 shrub.
Number 4, I'd say we're getting tough here. I'd probably say it's our service berry. So another wet tolerant shrub, similar berry to the silky dogwood, but it's going to be more bushy, not as stringy. Service berry, and then the last, number 5, I'd say would be our elderberry or cranberry. I put them at the end because they can't be in as wetter areas. But elderberry is you can use elderberry homestead wise too, but it's a great browsing shrub. And cranberries, if you want to please the wife, tell her we'll put some cranberries out front so you can see the red berries in the snow and all that kind of stuff too.
Mm.
Oh no!
Birds love it. Natural habitat.
No, I don't. I would not. I don't know if she would get into cranberries. I have no idea. I just
he gave a good.
It's just usually a way to offset that cost. Like, hey,
yeah, I don't think I'm selling that one. I was humming it because like I've sold some things before in my day, but I don't think that one's gonna fly. She's not biting on that. My wife isn't, at least. So. Good deal.
So when it comes to, let's say a person hears this podcast and was like, I need to get this. I want to start planning. Obviously, what do you recommend? Do you recommend going right to the website, giving you guys a call, talking you through this? What's a good starting point?
So best starting point would be to visit our website, morsenursery.com. Mm-hmm. And then it depends on what you're looking for. So if you already have established food plots, you kind of have your own plan in mind. I'd push it towards the habitat bundles, our big rack pack, our big buck pack, all season chestnut pack, apple habitat pack, oak pack, shrub bedding thicket pack. We have them all there so you can kind of plug and play on your property if you know the areas. If you don't know the areas, you just recently bought the property and you're looking for help, but you have a good layout, maybe on your Onyx or a good view, we can do something virtually where I can help you lay that out. Or if it's a bigger project and you're, really trying to make a change, we can come into the property and do like an on-site consultation. But for most cases, it's best to go to the website. You can look through the bundles that I've created for you. And then for doing the podcast too, we're going to attach a 15% off discount code for any listener. So anyone that wants to use, it's Everland 15 for 15% off the entire order. Awesome. It's not stackable, but again, you go get a $400, $300 pack from us. You can save some money on it. Yeah. Get the kits. You got a warranty. And then let's say you come back next year and something's doing a little better than something else, then we can kind of fill that in and replace it with the stuff that's working better.
Yeah. Awesome. 15% off. I would end up buying 2 packs then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sounds awesome.
So, and really now is the time to start putting your orders in, correct?
Yeah. So, everyone's okay. Usually by mid-January, we start to run out of stuff. And like how we met last year, mm-hmm. I'll be speaking at the different shows again this year, but we really start running out of stuff in like February, stock-wise.
Mm-hmm. So yeah,
and as a grower, we don't go buy more stock from somebody else.
Right. And you said the nursery is actually in Battle Creek. Is that what you said?
So the genetics are in Battle Creek, and then we ship out of West Lafayette. So we ship nationwide. Okay. There's some states that don't let us ship to, but we're nationwide shipping.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So yeah, if anyone, again, if you are, like I'm swung, I know on a lot of different things. I'm a little nervous of what I'm going to do with this 15% and discount here.
A little nervous. You have a baby coming. You can't spend all your money.
My wife doesn't listen to the podcast. She'll
Okay,
never
you're
know.
fine. Mine does.
Well, tell your wife not
You
to tell
said
mine.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so again, if you guys food plots, there's other things to look at on your property rather than like put the food in the dirt and make it here. There's some long-term goals that you can do with your property. And again, that's why I really wanted to bring you on here and shed some light on this, is like you get that continuous food over year after year after year. You're going to continue to draw more deer. The deer are going to learn your property and utilize it more. So I think trees are they're a no-brainer as far as when you're looking at your property and how to develop it.
Yeah, and I would say for me, what I've learned from tree plantings for myself is do it right. Don't be me and don't go out there and just plunge them into the ground and kind of like lean them up and hope that it's good. It's like take the time, be prepared, get the right equipment or like what you need for that weekend when your plants do show up and they come in, I'm assuming they come in their packages and they're all bundled together and they got their roots all covered and all that stuff. Be ready for them when they show up, especially and don't bite off more than you can chew. Sorry if Frank, but like, I've made that.
You're so right though.
I've made that mistake of like, oh, I'm going to do 100 trees this weekend. It's like, dude, whoops.
You're going to find out real quick.
That was not fun and not cool. And now and then I say things like, I'll never plant a tree again. And it's like, if I would just have planted 20 10 years ago, I would have 20 sweet chestnuts on here, but instead I ordered 100 of them and it really bothered me.
And 5 of them made it
because I didn't do them right.
Through it. Yeah.
Right. So do it right.
Exactly. Yeah. And challenge yourself. If you're not looking to talk to, one of us about consulting, challenge yourself to look at your property as a whole and say, hey, maybe I do want to do 150 trees and 100 shrubs, but what's going to make the biggest difference? The soft mass producers first, late drop. Let me do that year one. Let me do 10 to 20 to 30 year one. And then next year I'll do some shrubs. Next year I'll do a few more trees. Piecemeal it out so you can control it and also make sure you're successful. One thing too we didn't mention, and I'll wrap it up, but if you're putting in shrubs and we've identified, let's say 10 different bedding thicket areas, instead of you going one at a time in each area, I'd recommend doing 5 to 10% in each area. Year two, let's see what does the best in those spots. And then before we come back and put more in, let's focus on what did the best and let's plant more of that versus me just saying, I really like this cranberry. I think you should do more of that without us knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
So
and
being more strategic and not just jumping the gun.
Yeah. Yeah. And letting the deer tell you too, what maybe they do prefer.
Cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Frank, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for giving our listeners 15% off and use that code.
That's Everland15 at morsenursery.com.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Enter it at checkout and you'll get 15% off the entire order. And yeah, appreciate you guys too. Anytime we can get together and talk deer strategy, I'm all for it.
Yeah, dude. And dude, literally like really hoping and praying that you get a chance after that buck you showed us, man. That is super cool and awesome. So I hope you can.
I appreciate it, guys.
I know. I wish we had more time because I want to talk about Indiana as a whole now.
Well, we just can't talk about Indiana as a whole because there's a farm.
Well, we can talk about. Hey, the one buck a year thing is helping our football team win more games. I think that's what it is.
Oh man, that was cool, dude. I don't want don't get me in trouble with Ohio State fans. I got an Ohio State guy at the office right now, but that was I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
So good
deal.
deal.
Appreciate
right,
you guys,
Frank.
man.
All right, man. Have a great one.
Yep.